Okay, so we are using Gift of the Unbound in this one. There was a comment asking about doing one for that, so we're finally doing it. I've been messing around with a couple different ideas, and here's kind of what I've settled on. It's a sort of ranged mod hybrid-y thing, right? A couple things we're like adding together. Who is shooting me from where? A couple things that we're kind of adding here together. So Bulletweaver is the main thing I'm on right now. That's just kind of my kick at the moment, which is a ranged weapon mutator that using your mod will give you increased fire rate. And at level 10, it also increases your mod power generation. Just baseline. Like, you don't have to use your mod to gain increased mod power generation. So more mod power generation, faster fire rate when we use our mod. And I'm using the Ravager's weapon, the Merciless, because it's got 3 charges on the mod, and you can kind of quick shoot off a pretty high-powered rail, and then immediately just start shooting a bunch, which will charge one up fairly quickly while also shooting fast, right? And we're able to upkeep that Bulletweaver pretty easily. Now, some choices that I've made for our like rings and stuff is for the Burden of the Unbound. Not Burden of the Unbound, Gift of the Unbound, right? And its whole shtick is about using your burden rings. And if you're going to use the Gift of the Unbound, you need to use at least 2 burden rings. I would say at least 3, honestly. Because otherwise, like, what's the point of you using that amulet? You might as well just kind of like suck it up and get used to whatever burden you're dealing with. But when you're running with like 3, you're at least getting quite a bit of like bang for your buck, and you're getting a lot of movement speed. I have 4 burden rings on, so we're actually pretty fast. And then I can kind of use that in synergy with the footwork trait, which gives us increased movement speed while aiming down sights. And since we're already so fast, it means we do a lot better just moving around and aiming down sights. Now, for my choice of rings, I chose a couple things to kind of help us out sort of specifically with this. So one is the Burden of the Destroyer, because it's just solid. I mean, it's just 15% more damage, and we don't have to worry about its downside anymore. And since we have a couple sources of damage being ranged, status effect, and mod, you know, it works out nice because it actually covers all our sources of damage. So hooray for us. The next thing is the Burden of the Follower. This is because it gives us 30% increased mod power generation, so we're able to help charge up our shots a lot more quickly. So that's stacking on top of trait points into Spirit, as well as our Mutator also giving us mod power generation, means we can charge up these like rail shots on the Merciless pretty quickly, which then feeds into us having an increased fire rate, right? Now, after that, I went with, I already forgot, actually, Burden of the Audacious, because I really like using this ring. I think it's actually super satisfying to use and just be able to heal when you dodge, because you're going to be dodging no matter what anyways, right? Like, it's just going to happen. And a lot of times when I actually get hurt and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to heal up, I'm having to dodge before I can use my relic, which means I can just automatically heal just by dodging to get the opportunity to heal, right? And the last one was Burden of the Gambler. I do really like Burden of the Gambler. You know, normally the trade-off with it is pretty steep because it increases your crit chance and crit damage, but you can't get those weak points. And I'll tell you, man, it's a big difference not being able to get those weak points. But once you add in the weak points, it adds a ton of damage. Now, depending on what you have, you might want to go with like another damage ring, like Burden of the Departed, which gives you a 10% damage increase. Not quite as hefty as, you know, the Destroyer, but it is still some more damage. I compared using that with my Burden of the Gambler, but it didn't quite match up. It wasn't quite as good. That's okay. I'm not surprised, you know, because the extra crit chains and stuff is pretty brutal. Now, good thing is, too, right, like, I focused in on using the Merciless. Like, that's kind of where I'm, like, wanting to focus, supposedly, but you know, speaking realistically, a bunch of the effects are going to cover into our handgun as well. So like, I have on the double barrel with the chains, blood draw, because that's just kind of how I felt. That's just how I felt, what I felt like using. But you can kind of swap around, and there's a lot of flexibility with this general idea of a setup where we've just got generic damage, generic mod power generation, and then I would say running Bulletweaver, because I really like Bulletweaver, and that's kind of the idea I'm going with, is a hybrid between ranged and mod. And so then you can charge mods quickly, use them while they're getting more damage thanks to the Archon, and then increase fire rate afterwards so that your gun is getting a lot of bullets out too. I'm kind of enjoying it. I'm liking it. Is it like something crazy setup? No, not really, but you know, it's entertaining. And I mean, trait-wise, you know, there's nothing super specific for this one, right? Spirit Eyes was something I wanted to max out. Did I max it out actually? Huh, I did not. It's fine though. But I did, because I primarily my damage is coming from range. Taking things like footwork and handling are really helpful for us. I didn't need to do any extra movement speed because we have an extra 20% bonus to our movement speed with the Gift of the Unbound. And then I maxed out Strong Back just so I could use a full set of heavy armor while having a medium roll, especially since I'm healing off dodges. I wanted to have a good recovery with those rolls and dodges. Let me turn down the music a little bit. And of course, some standard safety stuff, right, because of how I'm trying to live. What I probably should have done, instead of maxing out my expertise, I probably should have swapped it for the spirit just so I could do more with some mod, but that's okay. In my mod, or my fragments, you know, I went health pretty standard, and then mod damage, range damage. I tried it with some range crit chance too. Wasn't quite better. I think if, you know, we were focused a little differently between our crit chance and stuff, it would be a little bit better. But then that's pretty much it. Right, see how quickly we can get charges up with this thing, which means we're just non-stop able to pull off the rail shots and get that constant extra movement speed. Now, skill-wise, I ended up going Bullet Storm because I like Bullet Storm a lot. It kind of feeds into the whole fire rate thing. Auto-reloading and stuff is solid. I do wish using the railgun would actually, like, auto-reload our gun. That'd be really fun, but that's fine. The other thing is our Archon ability. I went with the Chaos Gate, because I never use that thing, and it increases all of our damage. So we end up able to do a ton of damage onto guys, which will increase our mod, increase our range damage, etc., etc. Oh my gosh, nearly messed that up. No, thank you. Now, if I was actually playing nice and calm, I would actually be able to heal off of the dodge like I did right there. Boom. Nice. There we go. I like that. The bad thing with Chaos Gate, it does, you know, reduce or increase how much damage we take. So we're at 46% damage reduction right now, as opposed to like our normal about 50-ish. The other good thing about getting an increased fire rate with the Merciless means we get to that like bleed threshold a lot faster, because you have to shoot it for a period of time before it'll also inflict bleeding. But with an increased fire rate, you know, we can hit that threshold a lot more quickly, which is cool. Come on. All right, this will be pretty interesting. I actually do like fighting the Executioner. It's pretty fun. It's pretty high stakes intensity because you're like basically locked in a little room with him trying to dodge all his attacks and deal with him. Though it can be incredibly obnoxious with the, like, there's a bunch of fixes you could have on him that make it incredibly brutal. Like shocking is brutal. The summoner can be bad, as well as Rat Swarm is actually horrendous as well if you don't have the right setup. Gen Trapper. Okay, this is fine. Dodge. Dodge. Whoop. Yeah. Oh, we got to do our mod shot. There we go. One more. 1, 2. Oh, yeah. Aw. Oh, I got the stagger on him. Bummer, dude. Oh, I messed it up. Oh, but we healed. I like being able to use a rail shot pretty frequently. That felt pretty okay. I mean, the things he had on him were actually pretty easy for us to deal with. Like I said, if it had been one of those other 3 where we really would have had to deal with big dodging lightning strikes and rats and other like AoE type things that require us to like get rid of other ads, we probably would have struggled, because our setup right now doesn't have a lot of like AoE potential right now, but we could probably switch that around a little bit. If we needed to be more defensive, you could put on the what you want to call it, the reality rune kind of bubble, slow bubble, that'll slow dudes down, give you more damage reduction. So we lean a little bit more into the defensive section, and then with our handgun, we could even just switch out a different mod into something that'll actually cover our you know, extra ads and stuff a little bit better. You know, kind of going back to the Gift of the Unbound, I think something else that's kind of nice about it, but also a little frustrating, right, is how general it can be, because it really depends on the rings that you have equipped, right? So, oopsies, and nope, nothing. So, you know, depending on the choices that you make really defines like what kind of build you have, obviously. But a lot of them they're not like that specific. There are some that are like, hey, like a bunch of skill cooldown reduction. So like really, unless you're trying to do a bunch of skill things, you're probably not going to pick it. But with a lot of my choices right now, there's nothing too crazy or different about them. Like, it's not specialized that hard. So like you could kind of just slot it into whatever. Where like I feel, but at the same time, what's like frustrating about it is because they're so general and it requires you to use the burden rings. Like, if you are not really doing anything, like, how do I put this? So in order to get like good bang for your buck, right, you want to have at least 2 burden rings, and you can get some really strong effects with them, specifically like Burden of the Gambler. Getting the extra crit chance and everything while still being able to get weak spot hits is huge. That's a huge damage difference. But because it requires an amulet slot and then probably like 2 burden rings, then you only have 2 other rings to like kind of work and kind of fidget around with, which, like, even though I was saying, you know, it gives you some flexibility because there's a lot of general rings. They do a lot of general things, so you can kind of slot them in with whatever you're doing. At the same time, because you're using a bunch of ring slots, you don't get a lot of other choices to do other crazy specialized things. Because I was like, oh man, you know what would have been actually kind of nice is getting, like, getting like a, the Sapphire Stone again. I was thinking, like, man, wouldn't that be kind of nice to use once more? But of course I can't use that because, guess what? You know, I have 4 rings going on here, and I mean, I guess I could have like taken off one of my rings and used not a burden ring. But like, I figure if I'm going to be using this type of ring or amulet, I might as well go all the way, right? Because why not? Oh, come on. Oh, if I could, I really don't like how bad my aim with the stupid railgun has been. Oh my god, I'm gonna die because I'm trying to shoot this dude. All right, get ready to dodge this. Whoop. There we go. Bang, bang. Whoop. Part of the thing with the Burden of the Audacious is I went ahead and I slotted in the, oh my lord, Tranquil Heart, because I figured if I'm just going to be healing, if my heal, you know, my focus on healing is going to be using dodges, I might as well just kind of passively regenerate health a bit better, right? There we go. Though, depending on what you have going on, I could see an argument for the Siphoning Heart, or Profane Heart, so that you just have some better life steal while shooting, because we have so much increased fire rate, that maybe you could do some good things with that. I would like to stop getting hit by the random piece of crap things. Chaos Gate. There you go. Get lots of stacks of bleeding on him. Oh, I just realized he had thick skin and drain, which maybe explains a little bit why he's being kind of harder to kill. He's healing, and he's just a little bit harder to kill. Yeah, I got you in the face. What do you think about that? I guess what's kind of nice, too, I mean, a lot of our bonuses, again, no, I could kind of just go into melee attacks and be pretty okay, which is cool. There we go. Have it is. I think maybe if I was able to get some more weak spot hits, I would have gone faster. I sort of struggle with him a little bit. Like, I don't, like, struggle. Like, it's a very clear, like, rhythm to the fight and stuff. And his movesets are fairly telegraphed once you're, like, used to them and everything that's happening. But the problem I end up running into is I just have such a hard time getting his head, the weak spot hits, that it's a big hit to, like, my DPS and stuff. Maybe I'll fight what's her name, too. Another thing that's kind of nice about this setup, and specifically by us using Burden of the Audacious and healing off our dodges, it means we're not really reliant on our relic to heal, which is why I chose, you know, the Tranquil Heart, because it's just health regen. And because it's just passively regenerating health and we don't really need to activate it to heal, and we're healing by dodging, it leaves up a lot of my slots, my relic charges, to do other things like revive teammates, which is a nice little extra thing if you do multiplayer at all, you know. Okay, in we go. Let's see how it works. Skippy, skippy. Let's just open up big, huh? Oh yeah, I gotta remember to use. Oh, yep. Well, she got Skullcracker and Drain. Oh yeah, if she hits us on some of those, it's gonna be bad for us. Especially when I'm using the freaking Chaos Gate, right? I hate how that staggers me when I'm close. 1, 2, 3. Just gonna swoop here in a second, right? I'd like to get some actual weak spots on her, but I'm not set up to really deal with the spiders passively. If I had something else that would actually, like, get rid of them, then I could do something. Oh, nope. You look at those heals off of dodging. Hooray for us. Maybe I can do chunk. Uh-oh. That's a problem. I got something in my mouth, too, and I don't like that. Wish it would, like... One thing that would be really cool about the Merciless is if by using the mod, it would, like, auto-reload. That'd be kind of cool. Would it be kind of broken? Maybe. Because I think that's one of the main, like, you know, kind of drawbacks to using it slowly, is that the reload is kind of slow. It actually did get upgraded at one point. Like, that was a big buff I remember happening, and I was like, oh my god, yes, because that reload was really bad before. There we go. Come on, go down, please. Oh, I gotta reload. Of course I do. She's gonna go off, and she's gonna summon up some spiders. Or not. Hello. Howie? Oh no, the heal dodge. Goodbye. That took me a little bit. It took me a little bit longer than I would like. But, I mean, at no point did I feel threatened at all. I don't know. She just didn't seem to be hitting very hard, which was kind of weird. I feel like she should have been hitting me way harder on some of those. Even the little spider dudes. It was kind of weird. Yeah. That's it. That's more or less a build. I think if you wanted to, right, you know, I did the Archon just to crank up the damage on this thing a bit more. But, I mean, really, you could probably trade it out. I do like the extra mod crit chance, though, 10% more there to kind of go in with the crit chance here and crit damage. So, you know, it kind of helps out a little bit. But really, if you want to just, like, kind of super hone in a little bit more onto the whole just, like, kind of range damage aspect, swap that out for Hunter. You could do a standard just kind of hugs setup or something like that, right? And then you could just, like... I don't know, some fire rate things, you know, with some extra crit things with like Burden of the Gambler. You could trade out the Audacious and the Follower, put in your, whether it's the Akari Warband for increased crit chance and damage, or like a combination of Braided Thorns and the Probability Cord. And then at that point, you trade out your Mutator, you know, so we're not doing the whole Bulletweaver thing anymore, alternating mod shots with standard fire rates. But trade that out for something like the Momentum. Yeah, Momentum. So as you get critical hits, you increase the critical hits and damage, right? So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't really have much more to say about it. There you go. Build using Gift of the Unbound. A little unorthodox, but I think it works pretty nicely, getting some nice synergies with various things. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you checking it out. Hope you kind of enjoyed it. Give you some things to think about. And until the next one, take care.